So we're going to go ahead and get started. Looks like everyone is here that is ready to attend today. So welcome to Career Q&A Live, everybody. This is a new series that UCSB Career Services has introduced to bring professionals and UCSB students together virtually to learn about different industries, to ask questions, and to make connections. So my name is Eric Wilder. For those of you who don't know me, I'll be your host today. I serve as a career counselor at Career Services who specializes in working with students interested in fields related to communications and arts, and the sports and entertainment industry falls within that. So that is the focus for today's conversation. Our agenda for today starts off with a quick introduction about our special guest who you see here on the line with us, followed by a few quick questions that I will ask, and then the part that we're really excited about, questions from our students. So students, if you're with us, you may submit your questions via the chat menu item. It should be on the bottom of your screen. You can submit those questions at any time. They will just go to me, and then I will check in periodically to ensure that we can ask as many of those to Jack as we can. I'd also like to let everyone know that we are recording this session today so that future Gauchos who couldn't be with us live can have a chance to see our recorded conversation. So, without further ado, we are chatting with Jack McFarland today, who currently works as a ticket sales manager at AEG Sports in the LA area. He serves the Los Angeles Kings, LA Galaxy, and Ontario Reign sports teams. Jack's role at AEG involves recruiting, training, and managing a staff of 20 sales executives, generating ticket revenue and managing budgets, as well as using some reporting platforms such as business SaaS software, good skill for a lot of students to start hearing about. Prior to Jack's current role, he served as an events intern and ticket operations intern in the sports and entertainment industries, and he was actively involved in various leadership roles as a student athlete as he completed his bachelor's degree in marketing communications from California Lutheran University. So thank you to Jack for lending some time to us today, and one special thing about Jack is that I wanted to share with everybody is Jack actually was a former student when I was working at California Lutheran University. So we know each other through Career Services as well. So this is an exciting thing to see Jack's career growing a few years out. So welcome, Jack.
Career Services. Use your Career Services people. It actually works out. So he's a pretty good example.
Love it. And I saw another student just joined us. So again, students, feel free to submit questions through the chat box at any point in time. But we're going to go ahead and get started with a question for Jack. We'd like to know more, how did you get started in your career as related to the education, experiences, and skills that you gained? Anything that I didn't get the chance to share in your bio?
In a collegiate setting?
Yeah, maybe start there and we can see where that developed, how it went.
Yeah, absolutely. So college was, I came into college with the expectation that I was going to have a job when I graduated. And when I had my mindset on that goal, because I know a lot of people our age, because I consider myself to be part of this generation who's now probably a junior or senior in college, there's a lot of people that don't graduate with positions, and maybe even a year or two out, they don't have a full-time role. So I said, I'm not going to be that number. I want to have a job. So I want to find out what I want to do. I know that if I work hard enough, I'll discover what I do and what I don't want. People would ask me as a freshman or sophomore and say, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I'd say, well, truthfully, the position I want might not even exist yet because technology changes so fast, but I'm going to find out what I'm really good at, what my skill set is, what my God-given talents are, and find a way I can turn that into a profitable career. I think it was really important that I tried a lot of different things. I never had an opportunity where I wasn't working or volunteering heavily enough to be calling it a position. And through that, I discovered what I didn't want as well as what I did like. You will find as more time goes on and your maturity level rises, it's almost as valuable to find out what no's are as well as what yeses are. And you can't find out what that is unless you actually try it. The simple example is you don't like hot sauce. You didn't know that until you tried hot sauce. Similarly, you might thinking like, oh, well, I really want to go into digital media. I really want to go into digital arts. Like that's what I want to do. But unless you actually have an internship or you try to freelance work before you actually begin your career outside of school, you might actually hate it. And then you've sort of had a stumbling block because you didn't give yourself enough of an opportunity to try it in a safe setting like college. So try everything and anything, even if you don't think it's the exact dream fit position, because you might surprise yourself at what you really are good at and which you really don't want to do through that learning experience.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And from your own personal experience too, of just using college as a time to explore a lot of things, knowing that probably that first thing you try is not going to be the thing you stick with, as probably as just the odds that we face when we enter a career path.
Yes.
So could you talk a little more about kind of how your different internships went, how you got to this point where you found a place for yourself in the sports and entertainment industry?
It's a really good question. I think that many of you might have heard something where you have a friend that knows you better than you know yourself. You are who you surround yourself with. Iron sharpens iron. If people tell you you should try something, you should probably listen to them. I was told I'd be a really good salesperson, and they were right. But I didn't believe them at first. I am sort of a disheveled person in certain parts of my life. So I thought, I'm going to be an operations person. I'm being team administration. And thank God I'm not doing that, because that's not really the right fit for me. I'm really someone who's a really primary use of my talent is through communication, through either training people, recruiting people, or selling people if it's an actual product. And through that guidance, I looked for opportunities where I could use my God-given talent for communication and develop that into internship opportunities that either existed or didn't exist. I created 3 internships with my athletics department when I was in college. I said, I have this talent. I want to try this. Can I try this here? And I was given the opportunity to do so. I think that I tried, if we're going from my exact history, not my thought process, my parents were insurance salespeople, which maybe some of your parents are as well. It's a very popular career move. Like 4th generation, and they actually had their own practice. So really, I was expected to join their career path as well. Junior to senior year, I did a really prestigious Northwestern Mutual college internship. I decided it was not the right fit for me. I actually say I failed at that position. I then realized, though, that I still have a talent for selling, but this isn't the right fit for me. I then said, well, I want to work in sports. There is sales opportunity in sports. So I tried ticket operations opportunity with the LA Sparks, because there's the only position I could actually even find. I had a great coach that worked there. I found out that ticket operations was not the right fit for me, but I learned a lot about how the back end works. I got a call from a previous peer that went to Cal Lutheran. She said, hey, we're hiring for this role. It's a minor league hockey team out in Ontario. And I'm like, I don't know where the hell that is, but I'm going to give it a shot. And long story short, it took me 9 hours to get there from Thousand Oaks to San Bernardino County. And I'll tell you what, that's not a 9-hour drive. I got in a car crash, tire blew out. I was bloodied. I got to the interview and I was like, I'm here. They offered me the job. So I guess the root of that answer is I trusted people around me that respected me, and they told me I'd be good at communicating. I switched my degree from history to marketing communications because I realized that it would be a marketable degree, and I would learn things about myself. And I took opportunities with different types of communication positions throughout college that let me discover what type of communications was the right fit for myself, and that really helped me out. It's also worth noting too, just as a tangent to this point, we are eventually going to take over the world as 22 to 25-year-olds. We're going to be leading this world, right? But like right now, we don't have all the answers, and we're not as smart as we think we are. There are a lot of people that may be dull, they may be not as witty as us, but if they gave you a position, whether it was internship or a part-time job opportunity, they do have more experience than you. And even if you disagree with their style of management or the way that they're actually running the practice, you should still learn from that and say, I don't want to apply this and I'm leading a position similar to this. I don't like how this functionality works, but ask the question, why is it working like this? Why has it worked like that, like this before? And how can I apply this differently when I'm making these decisions? So again, like find opportunities, decide what you want and what you don't want, but you have to respect the position you're currently in. Never burn a bridge. Bridges aren't worth burning whatsoever.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. And I'm sure a lot of the students on the line are appreciating what you're saying about kind of this generational thing of there's so many Gen Z and Gen Y folks that are entering or in the workforce already. And I believe we've never had more generations in the workforce at the same time. So
yeah,
the skill that we've all been gaining and continue to gain of how to interact with other generations and use each other's strengths. And it's very apparent once you step into that first job and you see you're working with all different kinds of people.
It's amazing. You know, the life experience of what a 60-year-old person went through. I mean, they went through the Vietnam War and the Cold War. Like they went through the dot-com bust. They went through they have very different life experiences. They're bringing different things to the table. We talk about a diversified workforce all the time in the hiring process. We talk about different races, different genders, different sexual identities, different religions, different ages isn't talked about enough. Respect your elders. You don't have to necessarily bow to them, but definitely respect what they bring to the table, just like you respect a peer that comes from a different nation. It's the same thing, just different age group.
That's great.
Yeah.
So a common topic that I hear from a lot of students who are thinking about entering the sports industry or pretty much anything entertainment is like, how do I get in? How do I get started? We know it's competitive. We know with anything entertainment or sports, a lot of people want to do it. And so one thing I've heard through the grapevine is working in something related to tickets. So ticket sales is a big way in. Perhaps one of the main ways in. But I wonder if you could speak to what you'd recommend to students who want to get into one of these industries. What should they be looking for to get started in terms of types of internships or types of skills to be developing?
You're right, and the exclusivity is a huge draw. I have to say that there is Netflix, right? But there are a ton of other video services out there you never heard of, and they're startups. So just because there's a big name out there and a big corporation doesn't mean you can't learn something maybe even more valuable than a smaller organization functioning in the same entertainment space. So don't just look for big names. There's a lot of different names out there. Similarly, if there is a market where there is a fixed cap on amount of opportunities, like if you really want to have a sports team logo be on the front of your polo, you're not the only one. Because there is such a demand to work for the Kings or the Galaxy, for example. I want to work for the greatest MLS club that exists. You have to be able to, first off, it can be a little disenchanting sometimes realizing that a team, maybe you love that team, is still a business. I have to constantly remind my teammates that we run a business, not a charity. That, yeah, that's great. This would be a great, awesome experience for them to have, but like we can't offer that to them because they're not paying for it. My favorite team is the A's and the not the 49ers, screw them, the Raiders and the Golden State Warriors. And, you know, I would never work for those teams. I'd be way too enamored with the play on the field. So I work for two sports teams that I don't really care about the sport, because I'm able to provide such a better experience for the clients and such a better experience training for my people that are underneath me. I love sports. I don't necessarily love those sports, and that's super helpful for me. But I just went a little bit too far off on that question. Opportunities to get in. There is a common saying, it's about who you know. Just know that even if you know me, even if you're a great candidate, you may not be a great candidate for what I'm looking for. Therefore, you need to expand your search as wide as possible. Just because your style doesn't fit what I'm looking for doesn't mean a sales manager for the Angels, you wouldn't be a good fit for what they're looking for. So we talked about how you would have every experience possible. you have to give yourself every opportunity to try everything, and you have to talk to as many people as you possibly can. Informational interviews are crucial. Um, yeah, I guess that's, it wasn't probably the best answer of the three questions so far.
No, that was great.
My path was a little bit different. I knew somebody on the inside. I went to my university. That really helped me a lot. But I'm interviewing people right now that are like 30 years old, or they're 26 years old, and they have tried to break into this, and they haven't been able to because they haven't had the right people, motivation, experience, and it's tough. It is tough. Listening to a career chat like this hopefully is a good, helpful tool to network and also learn some good insight.
Yeah, certainly. I think to sum up a big point I'm hearing you say is like cast a wide net, as wide as you can possibly cast it, within relevance to the field or industry you're focusing on. And one of the stories, if you don't mind me sharing, that I always remember you by is your famous informational interview trip where you were contacting organizations out of the area and actually setting up potential conversations. I think you fired up LinkedIn, right? And I remember we were looking around and trying to find people who would relate to the fields you were considering at that point in time. And you were getting some bites. Some people were responding to your requests to talk to them. And I think you learned a lot from just really being curious in a respectful way with professionals and talking to people. And certainly, I'm sure not everyone was that golden ticket to what you wanted to do or ended up doing, but you needed that wide net to have enough options.
You know what's unbelievable is I'm still calling people.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with, I read a thing about Sports Business Journal about this team in North Texas. University of North Texas was having and I don't work in the collegiate setting. It's a totally different market and size and different state even. And like their year over year for the past 3 years has grown like 400% in their ticket sales. I'm like, I'm gonna reach out to that person because clearly they're doing something right. And I called, like, I just networked. I did informational interview. Like, what are you doing that's so successful? You go to league meetings, you find these opportunities to network with people. It's like, you never stop learning, especially at a university that has values intelligence as much as a UC school, especially UCSB does. Like, don't stop learning. I don't believe in a plateau, especially in your learning curve. I never believe in a plateau. If you are not learning, you're not flatlining. You're going down. There is somebody else out there that is trying to learn more than you, and eventually they're going to overtake you, and you're going to lose your value as an employee or as a serviceable freelance person. That's my 2 cents on that.
So we have a student question here. Do you have any resume or interview tips that might help students get a foot in the door within the industry, kind of bouncing off of that idea of getting started? Maybe if you also don't know someone already, but you're trying to stand out through your resumes, application, and then that interview stage as well.
Well, Eric, you helped create my resume. So whatever Eric says, no. I would say just things that I'm learning being just 3 years. It's being 3 years out of school. I'm on like a 9-year out of school position, being 3 years in. So I'm very accelerated, but I can still offer a really good perspective because I am so close to H. Always have a master resume that has every single bit of experience on it. Always. It could be 20 pages long. I don't care. But you only give people a 1-page resume. Education should be at the top. However, when you start transitioning into the real world, if your resume has like your header, if it has skills and expertise, which you can't replicate that anywhere else, even in there, like you are familiar with the Adobe suite, you have a 60 FPS, whatever, for typing or whatever, then you have, instead of education being next, you should have your work experience. That's going to speak volumes. Have education at the bottom. It says a lot coming from UCSB, but I'll be honest with you guys, like, what do you bring to the table? You can say your athletic stuff. You can have all that stuff down there. It's great. What are you good at? Top line. What experience do you bring to the table? And then your education be at the bottom. Great. You gave a 3.9 in college. That's fantastic. But did you just study? Because guess what? Like, yeah, you learn a lot of theoretical information about how to do data processing for your university or whatever. But like, Where's your experience saying, I work with this organization, I did this data processing, I actually applied it in the real world so I can bring it to the table for you. Cover letters? Yeah, go for it. Trying to think what else is important for a resume.
Yeah, just to kind of throw in 2 cents to that, I'd say, of course, UC, we do come at education from a more big picture, theoretical, research-driven approach, and I always want gauchos to be familiar with that. So a lot of what you're saying is like balance that with some applied settings so that you can see how you're also doing some hands-on things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interview tips, anything special for interviews in your industry?
Don't when I'm telling people to interview for other positions as well, my advice is give them every reason to not say no to you. You can interpret that how you like. My attitude is if I'm interviewing for a position, if I get to the interview, there is no way on God's green earth they're going to literally have to have arguments in the back room of why they're not going to hire me. I don't care if I have less experience. I don't care if I have less expertise. They're going to have to find a way to persuade themselves that they're not going to hire me. That's doing every little thing right. That's having a tie and a coat. I swear to God, if you show up to an interview without a tie and a coat, like I don't care if it's a position that you've worked tank tops every single day. Show that you are willing to put in a ridiculous amount in to get the position. Like just show me that you care enough because there's so many people applying for this. Anything, like show me that you care enough. Be well groomed. This is too much facial hair, actually, to be honest with you. Say a thank you card afterwards. Like it's doing those little things right that really sets the difference. Hold on one sec.
Yeah, and I can chime in here. So, what Jack's saying is, really put off that professional presence. And I'd say one of my favorite things of working with students who, we have a lot of students at UCSB who want to do like something related to marketing. And I'd also group sales into that, although that is a different aspect of the business. But sales, marketing, advertising, PR, all of those fields are even more important to showcase professionalism, to showcase the ability to sell your own skills. I always kind of tell students, like, your first job for marketing or sales or advertising is like you're kind of crossing this new chapter in your life to show that you can sell your own skills before you can sell anybody else's for companies. So really take these things seriously, whether it's resume, cover letter, interview, that whole process.
Also, I'm just taking notes at the same time. There's two phrases that, and you almost mentioned one, two phrases I want you to just be cognizant of if you get anything from this. You are valuable to an organization because you can generate something. You generate value. A lot of the times, if you can generate revenue, you can't replicate that anywhere else. Like if there's a dollar sign attached to your activity, show that, demonstrate that, prove that. And if you don't have any experience doing it, and that's what the position's asking for, show how you would be good in that position to do that thing. Administrative assistant is an amazing thing. My mom has done that. It's great. She can't generate revenue. Therefore, theoretically, she's sort of expendable because she's not adding value. She's adding value to somebody else to make money, and her position is helping and assisting that. Mm-hmm. So if you can generate, there's a dollar sign attached to what you do, that's huge because I'm sorry, we don't work in a world full of charities. Like, we just don't. I was at Career Fair yesterday in Ontario. I'm not sure how you feel about this, Eric, but if I hear the phrase foot in the door, I sort of want to kick the person out of the room. I know you want a foot in the door. I know you do. Mm-hmm. There are so many doorways, though. So you saying you want a foot in the door, the organization, everything goes through one door, but once you get in the room, there's so many other doors for you to go inside of an organization. So don't look at me and say, you're interviewing for an inside sales position. You're interviewing for a community relations associate. You're interviewing for a fan service associate. I want to get my foot in the door. I want to work for the LA Kings. Okay, so what do you want to do in 3 years? I want to be working team operations. So then why the hell are you telling someone in an interview for that doesn't translate. That's like you're insulting me with your time that you come in here not actually wanting to do what you're interviewing for.
Yeah.
Please do not say foot in the door. Do you feel the same way, Eric, or am I?
Yeah, I would agree that it's really important for a student to speak the language that an employer is going to resonate with, and that's probably the single biggest reason why candidates don't get a job after an interview, is they didn't articulate it enough for the employer to connect with it. So as a candidate, they're saying, the candidate in the interview is probably talking a lot about how this job is going to be good for them. So it's going to get me a foot in the door. I want to get experience. And the employer is going like, but how are you going to add value to us?
Help me. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of finding the right words as a candidate. I love your phrase of adding value. I think it's really important what you said about like in the ticket or sales related, any revenue generating side of the business, the dollar sign, anything budget related, anything revenue related, definitely emphasize that in your job search process. But even if you end up applying for a job where that's not part of the role, you could always use this phrase of how you can add value. That's a big one.
Something that you taught me, and actually made me a better salesperson, so you deserve kudos for this, Eric, was you read it, you get a job description. Before you go into the interview, sit in your car, sit wherever, look over the functions of the position or requirements of the position. Bullet point to bullet point, what can I do to accomplish that thing? Or if it's experience, what can I say that brings this to the table? If you don't game plan ahead of time for that, they're going to ask you a question, shocker, associated with something like that. And if you don't have at least the right mindset, you're gonna start stumbling really, really quickly. You might not have a direct experience to associate with something like that, but if you're not thinking creatively about how can I connect something to that, it's gonna be a pretty bad experience.
Yeah. We're getting close to time here, so I'm going to take one more student question. If there is, we might be able to squeeze one more question, but let's do like a rapid fire on this one. What is the most challenging part of your career, and what is the most rewarding part?
Most rewarding part of my career up to this point is finding success out of failure, because you will fail. It's improbable that you will not fail. So it's finding a way to come out of a negative and develop a positive. It's a super sappy answer, but it's totally true. You're gonna fail, Eric. You've probably hit, maybe not rock bottom, but you probably hit a point where you're like, no one's showing up to these career chats. Like, how do you get to change that? And like, people are it's like, that's success. Like that's like it's one of those things, right? Like we just talked about previously. So that's huge for me. What was the first part of the question?
Challenging and rewarding part.
Okay, so I'd say the challenging part is I expect everybody to put forth as much effort as I do, because I give a shit, and maybe to a fault. So excuse my language. So when someone doesn't care as much as I do, I can control myself. I can control my controllables. I sometimes lose focus, and I focus on control, like things that are out of my control, when really it's just the controllables that matter. And that is a constant reminder, especially for a student athlete. Like, I can only control my effort, not anyone else's effort.
Yeah, that's great.
Any more rapid fire?
One more on grad school. So we hear a lot about grad school from students, from undergraduate students, thinking that's an important step for their career. What does grad school look like in the sports and entertainment industry or ticket sales?
I could spend another half an hour talking about grad school. It's right for some people and it's not right for other people. That is really a gut call for you. I talk about revenue generation. If you can provide value right away, there's not really a point of going to grad school. If you require specialization in your position, then you need to go to grad school. There are certain functions you really can't do without a graduate degree. I would say majority in sports and entertainment don't necessarily require that. It's more how witty, how clever, how creative, how ahead of the curve you can be. doesn't necessarily speak grad school to me. Grad school says I have a certificate explaining that I have extra certification and knowledge, theoretical knowledge on a situation, on an explanation. I have hired people from grad school. I've worked people from grad school. I think it says a lot to say that I've been hired by someone that went to grad school. I've been hired by someone that didn't go to grad school. I've worked along people that went to grad school. It also says a lot that I'm 25, hiring a 30-year-old that went to grad school that has a sports and management degree. Mm. It really, really, really depends. It's a gut check. I can handle it individually one-on-one, but that's really hard for me to make generalizations. That's the one thing I can't give a great clarity on.
Yeah, it's true. There's, I think in 2019 and beyond, there's so many paths to a goal, and grad school can be one of them if it works for that person. But probably in the fields we're talking about today, it's not the only path, or maybe even the most common path. It sounds like that's what you're saying.
I would say if you're thinking about sports administration, there's a difference between, by the way, sports management and sports administration. There is a difference. Be very cognizant of that. I like University of Nebraska. I like USF. Ohio is the pinnacle. Baylor has a good one too. San Diego State's okay. That's why if I didn't mention it, I probably don't have a good enough understanding of it, or I haven't heard those names come through. So that's my 2 cents on that. I would say that a sports team and a film company are still their product they deliver is either on the ice, on the field, or it's a movie or something like that. But like there's accountants in there, guys. Like there's it's still a business unit, and there's still multiple functions inside of it. And they're specialized. Our controller came from the world of finance, and he doesn't have a sports management degree, but he's working in sports, right? It's like we have someone that does our data and analytics, and you know what? They don't have a sports management degree. One of my really good coworkers has a history degree, and he works in ticket sales. Like it really, really depends on the person and what you're trying to get out of it. I would say that a degree in sports management may not be the right fit. I would say if you want to get an MBA, Master's of Education, something that's very specialized, that stands out more than a sports management degree to myself and probably a lot of other hiring managers.
Mm-hmm. That's great. As a final question, I'm going to pose it, but then I'm actually going to read your answer because you've already answered it in a blog post that you helped us with. But the question is, if you had 6 words to give career advice to UCSB students, what would those 6 words be? And do you remember what you said?
I think it was the same 6 words. Was it?
You said only you control your own effort, and I think that's a great summary of a lot of what you've been talking about today. So I want to wrap it up for now. Thank you again, Jack, for taking some time out of your busy work week to chat with UCSB students and myself. In the coming days, for all the students on the line here, I'll be sending an email out with Jack's contact information, which he's graciously shared with us. And he welcomes that you follow up with him individually to introduce yourself. Again, I think that's been a big theme of Jack's encouragement tonight, so please do take him up on that. And just important to grow your network and be open. So look out for an email from me on that. But again, thank you, Jack, and have a good rest of the week, everybody.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you guys later.
Take care.